Travis Kelce was back at practice today, was spotted running around, jumping, doing Travis Kelce type things. So on the basis of him returning today, that would tell you that he's tracking to be able to play on Sunday at Jacksonville against the Jaguars in a game that the 0-1 Kansas City Chiefs really would like to have, Laura.
Yeah, that hyperextended knee causing the bone bruise for Travis Kelce. We'll keep an eye on that. Adam Schefter with us all show long. And speaking of those Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid talked today about the Chiefs' offensive struggles. Reid addressed fixing the drops by wide receivers.
Best way to get rid of that is to go out and practice and then get back in the game and do better. So I think I'm not worried about him there. He's a competitive kid and a heck of a player.
I think guys are ready to go. I mean, we didn't like how we played this last Thursday, and so I think guys are ready to get out there and kind of prove to everybody, even ourselves, who we really are.
Kelce's absence was certainly felt in week one, especially in the second half when the Chiefs went 0 for 7 on third down, their worst mark in any game since Patrick Mahomes took over as the starter back in 2018. The Chiefs dropped 4 passes, 3 of which went through the hands of Kadarius Toney. Unfortunate for Toney and unfortunate for the Chiefs, thinking that Toney was going to be that guy, especially in Kelce's absence. I hate to make it this simple, Hawk, but if Kelce is back, does that just fix the Chiefs' offensive struggles?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it does fix the struggles because what Kelce gives them is an absolute. It does not matter how talented you are at quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. He cannot outplay ineffective wide receivers. Kelce gives them an aspect to the offense that they can rely on. That even if he's not the target, if he's not getting the ball, he's the part of the offense that defense is coming to the game having to take away. So now Mahomes can look and say, okay, well, if they do this, then I do that. They did not have that a week ago, and they left out blank.
I don't know if it fixes the issues because the drops are still there from week one, and that's all we know about this wide receiver group. That's all we know, and it'll be interesting to see. Patrick's going to start with Kelce, rightfully so. Almost every single play for them should be like, where's Travis? Is it one-on-one? What's interesting to me is 2 things. One, does he go to those guys that had those drops, Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore, and does he go to them early, and if they drop it, what happens next? Like if he goes to Kadarius Toney and there's another drop, or Rashee Rice and there's another drop, Patrick will go to those guys. He will make the right decision.
Dan would ice us out. Yeah. That's why he said Patrick. You asked him, he went to Patrick.
It's going to be because until one of these guys steps forward and is that number 2, that outside of MVS, the question is going to loom. And so if he goes to one of those guys and the completion is dropped, does he start to then sprinkle it away and be like, I'm forcing it to Travis, maybe I go create, or does he just pass up those guys, pass up an open person because of what happened in week one? I think that's the extreme. I do think kind of he's going to play it the way that I expected to, but just until the question gets answered, that is going to be an unknown about this football team.
I mean, Hawk can speak to this better than we can, but I think the drops were just an anomaly, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I refuse to believe that you put in all of that time and you're drafted to be a wide receiver and this is going to continue. Now, if these guys got the yips, they going to get Wally Pip, bro. And they going to find somebody else that's going to catch the ball opposite of MVS and obviously Travis Kelce coming back. I would like to believe that there is a something that Patrick Mahomes has done during this week of practice, knowing that these guys, Sky Moore and obviously Kadarius Toney, is going into a game knowing what transpired the last time they were out playing a real game and enforcing and instilling that confidence back in those guys. I think the lack of confidence for those young players carried over through more receptions and more drops. I do not expect to see that this week with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I completely agree. And Kadarius Toney, this is a guy we've seen make a lot of plays. And what happens in those scenarios is Travis Kelce goes out, and now there's more pressure on you. So you get within your own head and you start to play uncharacteristic of yourself. That's why Kelce being back in this offense is such a big deal, because he's going to make his plays, and all these guys have to do is make it when their number is called. It's the same we saw with Juju and the same we saw with a number of receivers that have come through Kansas City and still been effective.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, watching the game, like, I have no dog in the fight. I feel for Kadarius Toney. Like, you watch something like that and you're like, oh, man. So hopefully he fixes it, gets it fixed. One more thing you guys have to hear from Mahomes on Andy Reid. This happened today. Listen.
I try to keep the nuggies and keep my cheeseburgers away from Coach.
Commercial yet?
Dan's asking me if I've seen the
Have you
commercial.
seen the commercial yet?
I have.
It's the best
funny.
commercial,
Yeah.
T.
Oh,
It's
it's
phenomenal.
so good.
It's amazing.
The commercial is so
phenomenal.
good, man.
Those two together are hilarious. I don't know if there's many that are that different, like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, the juxtaposition.
My
of
only
them
request
together.
is save being at the line of scrimmage and saying nuggies for primetime television.
You like-
Don't do it on a
you-
Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, are you a nuggy guy?
Like it.
I
In on
love
those?
nuggets,
it.
but usually
You
the
strike
grilled,
me as a nugget guy.
the grilled nuggets.
Grilled,
Grilled nuggies?
like
Grilled
put some
nuggies, yeah.
breading on
Hey, let's
those.
move on. Let's move on, y'all.
What? But why?
Let's
Because
move
he's
on.
getting embarrassed,
'Cause that's
and you don't
crazy.
want that.
Nope, I just want to move on.
And we had high expectations. All right, week 2 starts tomorrow with the Eagles and Vikings facing off on Thursday Night Football. The Eagles barely got past the Patriots week 1. Injuries starting to pile up a little bit in Philly. So let's bring Adam Schefter back in here. Adam, what more can you tell us about the Eagles?
Well, Laura, they're going to be without running back Kenneth Gainwell tomorrow night. He's already been ruled out due to a rib injury that he sustained Sunday against the New England Patriots. And that will leave the Eagles' backfield with a combination of Boston Scott and DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, who was not active on Sunday against the Patriots. So now they'll lean on those particular running backs with Gainwell out tomorrow night. They also ruled out their cornerback James Bradbury due to a concussion. Not ideal going against a Minnesota Vikings wide receiver core that includes Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, but that'll be the reality tomorrow. But Minnesota has some injury issues of its own. Its center Garrett Bradbury ruled out, and it's not certain that its offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw will be able to play. He's questionable, but I have a feeling he might not be able to go.
Man, that quick turnaround, too, with the week 2 coming up that quickly. Thanks to Adam, more from you coming. This Eagles offense, back to the Eagles, struggled in their first game under their new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. Philly only had one offensive touchdown, tied for their fewest in any game, started by Jalen Hurts. They were held to 251 yards, their fewest since week 6 of the 2021 season. There were also 4 straight drives in the first half in which the Eagles went 3 and out. One thing I want to point out quickly here is that Bill Belichick was game planning on the other side, and he also had time because it was the first game of the season. He's dangerous in those scenarios. But, Hawk, what were the biggest issues for this Eagles offense against the Patriots defense?
The Eagles offense, they were too conservative. It looked unimaginative, and also they were predictable in a lot of ways. They have to push the ball down the field more. Now, look, it was bad weather, absolutely. Yes, this is a new play caller, and they're learning that. That is also true on the other side of the ball, and I think they did that well. A year ago, this was one of the most dynamic offenses in the league because of the weapons they have on the outside, and for a lot of reasons, they didn't go down. And when they did push down the field, it felt forced. So that's some of the play calling. That's some of Jalen Hurts taking some bigger chances, as well as protecting them a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, the protection part. I haven't seen both Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, their tackles, be beat like they were against New England on Sunday, maybe ever. It'll be interesting for me watching this game how kind of this offense handles the Vikings simulated pressure. I know the Vikings lost last week, but their simulated pressure package wreaked havoc early on for Tampa Bay's offense. The way that they would bring 6 or 7, maybe 8 guys up to the line of scrimmage, and you'd go, okay, who's the pressure guy, who's not the pressure guy, and kind of playing under duress for more often than not was a Tampa Bay offense. So the challenge, and this was a team, to Hawk's point, you know, Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts last week against pressure was 1 for 9 for 6 yards and a pick. That's terrible. You know, and if I know the Vikings lost, I was actually really encouraged and relatively impressed with their defense and the way they played. If I was the Vikings, I would be sitting here saying, we're going to throw you a lot of these simulated pressures when we put all those bodies at the line of scrimmage. Only 4 guys rush, and you're trying to figure out where the pressure is coming from, who's the one-on-one, and what's the coverage.
Look, I'm supposed to go another direction. Susan, don't kill me. Susan is our producer, y'all. Listen, I am not concerned about the Philadelphia Eagles. I watched that game. I want to give, like Hawk alluded to, Bill Belichick and the Patriots defense some credit. Like they are a physical football team. They got in a bear front, Dan, and you know sometimes that screws up your blocking scheme, especially on those RPOs, because it takes your reads away. Now, other teams will try to simulate that, but I saw plays. If you want to be concerned about anything about the Eagles, the missed opportunities. Jalen fumbles on a play that they could close the game out probably at the end of the game. You think about some of those runs that they had and it looked clean, and the New England Patriots back end and linebackers just made great tackles and great plays. I am not concerned at the least bit about the Philadelphia Eagles, especially playing against that defense who schemes up better than anybody.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.